What happens when betrayal pushes someone to their limit? Thrown out by her husband's family after his death, she was left with nothing but a crumpled check and a broken heart. But little did they know, this was only the beginning. Watch how she built a $50 million empire in silence and turned the tables on the family who thought they had won. This is a story of patience, power, and revenge. If you're ready for a roller coaster of emotions, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss how this incredible journey unfolds. Picture this, folks. It's a rainy Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the sky looks like it's crying right along with you. I'm standing on the porch of my husband's family home. A big sprawling place with white pillars and a manicured lawn. The kind of house that screams old money. My suitcase is soaked, my shoes are muddy, and I'm clutching a single key that doesn't fit the lock anymore. My father-in-law's voice is still ringing in my ears. You're not good enough for this family. My mother-in-law's sneer flashes in my mind. We don't need your kind here. They'd just thrown me out, me, the woman who'd loved their son, who'd cooked their meals, who'd thought she'd earned a place at their table. And now? I was nothing to them. That's where this story starts, and trust me, it's a wild ride from there. I married Tom when I was 25, full of dreams and dumb enough to think love could conquer anything. His parents, they hated me from day one. I wasn't from their world. No fancy degree, no trust fund, just a girl who grew up in a trailer park and clawed her way to a decent job as a bookkeeper. To them, I was a gold digger, a leech, a stain on their pristine family name. Tom stood up for me at first, but he was weak, too afraid to cross mommy and daddy. When he got sick, things got worse. Cancer ate him up fast, and I nursed him through every chemo session, every sleepless night. I thought that would prove something to them. I was wrong. The day Tom died, they didn't even let me grieve. I was still in my black dress, mascara streaking down my face, when they sat me down in their fancy parlor. My father-in-law, Richard, didn't waste time. You're out, he said, cold as ice. Tom's gone, and you've got no claim here. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, chimed in, her voice dripping with venom. We always knew you'd drag us down. They handed me a check $5,000 like some kind of pity prize and told me to leave. I begged. I pleaded. I've got nowhere to go, I said. Richard just pointed to the door. Not our problem. And that was it. They locked me out, changed the keys, and left me on that porch in the rain. I stood there for what felt like hours, watching the life I'd built wash away with the downpour. The neighbors peeked through their curtains. Oh, they loved the drama, but no one came to help. I was alone, humiliated. A widow with nothing but a crumpled check and a broken heart. Evelyn's words kept looping in my head. You're kind. Like I was trash. Like I didn't belong. And Richard's smug face. He thought he'd won, thought he'd erased me from their perfect little world. The rest of the family didn't care either. Tom's sister smirked when she heard. His cousins didn't even call. I was invisible to them, a nobody they could toss aside. But here's the thing about being kicked to the curb. It doesn't just hurt, it changes you. That night I dragged my suitcase to a cheap motel. The kind with flickering lights and stained carpets. I sat on that lumpy bed, staring at the peeling wallpaper, and something snapped. I wasn't going to let them win. Not Richard, not Evelyn, not any of them. They thought they'd crushed me, but they'd lit a spark instead. I wiped my tears, cashed that $5,000 check, and made a vow right then and there. I'd come back someday, richer than they could imagine, with a story so big they'd choke on it. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. So there I was, holed up in that dingy motel room, $5,000 to my name and a fire in my belly that wouldn't quit. Richard and Evelyn thought they'd seen the last of me. Thought I'd fade into some sad, broke widow stereotype. Oh, how little they knew. I wasn't just going to survive, I was going to build something they couldn't ignore. And I was going to do it my way, in the shadows where they'd never see me coming. That $5,000 wasn't much, but it was a start. I bought a second-hand laptop, rented a tiny desk in a shared office space, the kind of place buzzing with dreamers and hustlers, and got to work. I'd always been good with numbers thanks to my bookkeeping days, so I leaned into that. I started freelancing for small businesses, tax prep, payroll, anything they'd pay for. It was slow at first, scraping by on $50 gigs, but I kept my head down. No whining, no excuses. Every dollar I made went back into the grind. I taught myself software, studied real estate trends, watched the market like a hawk. I wasn't flashy about it. No social media posts, no braggy phone calls. I stayed quiet, invisible, just the way I wanted it. A year in, I hit my first break. A local diner owner needed help flipping his property. Big lot, bad location, but I saw potential. I crunched the numbers, found a buyer, and walked away with a $20,000 commission. That was my spark. I didn't stop there. I started buying up cheap lots, foreclosures, abandoned patches nobody wanted, and flipping them for profit. I'd drive by Richard and Evelyn's mansion sometimes, just to remind myself what I was fighting for. They were living high, throwing parties, acting like royalty while I worked in the dark. Good. Let them enjoy it. Their clock was ticking. By year 3, I'd cleared $1 million. I didn't splurge, no fancy cars, no big house. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, wore thrift store clothes, kept every penny working for me. I hired a small team, smart kids fresh out of college who didn't care about my past, and we scaled up. Commercial properties, rental units, a little warehouse deal that doubled my cash overnight. I called my company Silverline Holdings. Nothing flashy, nothing tied to me. To the world, I was just another faceless investor. To Richard and Evelyn, I was still the nobody they'd thrown out. Perfect. Then came the rumors. Tom's sister, Lisa, ran into an old friend of mine at the grocery store. "Heard you're doing okay," she said, fishing for dirt. My friend played dumb, bless her, and Lisa went back to the family with nothing. Evelyn started asking around town, sniffing for clues. "What's she up to?" she'd say, all suspicious. They couldn't figure it out, couldn't believe I'd amounted to anything. I loved that. Every whispered doubt, every smug laugh, it fueled me. My empire hit $10 million, then $15 million, all while they partied on, oblivious. The real shift came when Richard got sick. Not sick like Tom, just old age catching up, slowing him down. The family business, a chain of antique stores, started slipping. Bad management, lazy kids running the show, bills piling up. I heard through the grapevine they were looking to sell off assets. That's when I got bold. I had my team dig into their finances, discreetly of course. Took some calls, some late-night research, but we found it. $8 million in debt, and the bank was itching to pounce. I didn't just smell blood, I saw my shot. I wasn't going to let them crumble on their own. I was going to take it all and make them watch. 7 years after they threw me out, I was ready. Silverline Holdings was sitting pretty at $20 million, properties, cash, a network that hummed like a well-oiled machine. I'd built it brick by brick. Every deal a step closer to this moment. Richard and Evelyn? They were on their last legs, scrambling to save their precious legacy. The day of Richard's funeral was my cue. They'd invited me, out of pity I'm sure, thinking I'd show up broken, humbled. They had no idea what was coming. I walked into that church, head high, dressed in a simple black coat. No flash, no fuss. The family was there, all their smug faces lined up in the pews. Evelyn dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, playing the grieving widow. Lisa whispered to her cousins, probably some snide remark about me. The service dragged on, hymns, eulogies, the usual, but I wasn't there for tears. I was there for the wake, the moment they'd all gather at the house to divvy up what was left. That's when I'd strike. Back at the mansion, the air was thick with tension. Lisa took charge, barking orders about who'd get what. Richard's watch, Evelyn's jewelry, the stores. They didn't even glance my way. Just assumed I'd sit quietly in the corner. Then the lawyer showed up, a nervous guy in a cheap suit, clutching a briefcase. "There's an issue," he said, voice shaky. "The estate, it's not clear." Evelyn snapped. "What do you mean, not clear?" That's when I stood up, slow and deliberate, and dropped my bomb. "I own it," I said, voice cutting through the room like a blade. "The stores, the debt, this house, everything. I bought it all." You could have heard a pin drop. Lisa's jaw hit the floor. Evelyn's handkerchief fell from her hand. I pulled out the papers, deeds, loan agreements, my name in bold, and slid them across the dining table. "Silverline Holdings," I said. "That's me. $20 million built from the $5,000 you tossed me out with. And now? You're mine." Chaos erupted. Lisa screamed, "This is a lie." Evelyn lunged for the documents, hands trembling, but the lawyer confirmed it. I'd bought their debt 6 months ago, snapped up the stores when they defaulted, Even put a lien on the house. They were broke, pennies to their name, and I was the one holding the keys. You can't do this, Evelyn sobbed. I leaned in close, voice low. You did this. The day you threw me out, you signed up for this. I didn't stop there. I told them everything, how I'd started with nothing, how I'd watched them fail, how I'd turned their cruelty into my gold mine. You thought I was trash, I said. But I'm the one laughing now. Lisa tried to guilt me. Tom wouldn't want this. But I shut her down. Tom's gone because you let him go. I'm here because I fought. Evelyn just stared, eyes hollow, finally seeing me for the first time. The cousins slunk away, too ashamed to speak. I walked out that day with everything, the house, the business, their pride. They're renting now, last I heard, crammed into some tiny condo living off scraps. Me? I've got a view of the city from my penthouse, $20 million in the bank, and a story they'll never forget. They thought they'd broken me, but they made me. And that's the sweetest part. Here's the takeaway, folks. When someone kicks you down, don't stay there. Build something bigger, something they can't touch, and come back swinging. I did it with $5,000 and a broken heart. You can too. Revenge isn't just sweet. It's everything.